Hey David, hi Ben. This is the first of several videos I'm going to try to shoot here, try to capture some things and post them for you. The first thing I'm noticing as I'm coming down South Broadway, headed north, is just how incredible the view corridor is here, with the cliffs on the west side of the river, very visible, and just seeing the way that the topography bends here. I think there are several moments where you capture this, and it's something we need to be very mindful of as we propose new development. Something obviously that would fill in this gap, would remove that from your understanding of this kind of 100% corner. And the other thing, while I'm standing right here, is the real the campanile, this sort of thin tower, as opposed to some of the more slab-like towers, as a way to really make height, given all the way that the hills work, something special. I'm going to take a video in a little while that shows those three slab buildings and how they really make a wall, and how that does not work. Another good example of view sheds here. Now we're sort of looking down with City Hall behind us. In addition to wanting to try to preserve some of these precious view corridors that tie you to the place, we also have a good example of how not to treat an edge, wanting to find ways to hide parking behind the program. So here we are at Main and Broadway. What a spectacular spot. Wonderful little triangular open space here. And then these views out along these twisty, crooked roads. Certainly a corner where we could see a little bit of modest intensity of development. You know, this old church has some interest, but this other building across the way certainly not even matching either the interest and beauty of something like this, or the scale of what moves away as you head up the hill. Certainly, again, you know, we have some views here, these wonderful ones. As you look up the street at some of the older buildings, we get the church in the distance. But certainly a place that, I'm not sure what the zoning is already, but certainly a place that we should look at as having some real opportunities for some modest increase. We're now at the sort of the northeasternmost limit of the site area, North Broadway and Ashburton, at the top of a hill with a very nice church as a landmark as you approach from the south. What's significant here, and I think we'll find more, it's one of the few places where you can actually see the river, and you know, have a clear view all the way down to both the river and the cliffs that loom up again on the west side. I'm not sure exactly what this means yet, other than trying to preserve some of these. Down along the river, you know, certainly industrial wasteland of sorts, or Ashburton and Alexander. And one thing that is a bright spot here, as we look over at the bakery here, is, you know, some new industries coming in, taking advantage of these sites with interesting architecture, interesting buildings, new materials. Certainly does not feel like the old type of warehouse structure that was down here. Finally, a place where you can get down to the river. This is the Bezgak Environmental Center on Alexander Street, which has a nice field here where you can actually get right down to the river. The trouble is, it's completely disconnected from everything else in the city, in addition to having some nice existing structures here, old plant of some sort. You're then presented with a sort of wall of existing buildings, the Kawasaki plant, the city jails across the street. There are no streets that connect a facility like this back to the fabric of the city. You have to drive here. You know, they've got a fairly substantial parking lot for a tiny little building. And there are some adjacent uses here as well. There's a lot of bus terminals, bus facilities down here, both regional and local, it seems. So just, you know, a great opportunity to take advantage of the fact that it's a city that's along this incredible river with these incredible views across to the other side, but just no way to get. Now this band of new housing here down, we're continuing down Alexander or Wells Avenue now, looking south. You know, this new housing that has come in, that stretches all up towards the south here. You know, admirable in the fact that it's here. Absolutely no ground floor activity and uses. A bit of a monotony of the materials. I think it's, you know, this isn't that much of a barrier in my mind anyway. You could do something nicer with some of these walls, but there are openings, you know, that allow you to have access back up to the main part of the city, and some of these stations are actually quite attractive. But I think that the bigger issue here is sort of what's been happening with some of these uses like the parking garage adjacent, ground floor uses that have no activity, and a bit of monotony. Given the richness we've seen in some of the other housing stock further up, it's just a little bit of a letdown. Well, I spoke too soon when I was over at the Environmental Center. Here we have a great place to get down the river, obviously, by the backside of the housing I was just picking on. Again, still a little brutal, but a lot of it nonetheless in a great spot. One thing that I wonder when I come around and I take a look at a scene like this is whether or not they have thought at all about the kind of programs we have in Boston with the continuity of the Riverwalk. You know, here we have this great opportunity here, but it stops, and as we think about redevelopment along, potential redevelopment along this riverfront, could the kind of requirements for the Harbor Walk public access find its way in here as well, so that there would be the ability for people to actually walk along the river. It's just such a spectacular view here, and something that's truly potentially part of their ability to attract some of these residents who are going to live in these higher priced homes. There's one more thought before I leave the spot, which is that thinking about, you know, what potential something like this has if there's more of it. What a difference between this and a Rose Wharf, where you have all the activity, the ground floor activity that really adds to the fact that it's a place to walk. I mean, this does not feel very welcoming. It's here, but there's nothing supporting it around it. And I have yet to get over here, but I'm assuming this is some kind of a ferry terminal or some kind of connection over here that, again, I just see a parallel between the activity at Rose Wharf, the amount of housing, and the kind of vibrancy. Things change very, very quickly. After you move away from all of that housing, continue to make your way south, all of a sudden the things change, and you can see that probably what it was a lot like before. A lot of trash, backsides of a lot of houses, just real, much tougher, and you know, a condition where now there are no connections back to the city. As you move down this way and look further down toward New York, it simply becomes much more industrial, and again has very little connection back to the city. There are no streets. Like kind of a dead end. I'll need to turn back around now and head back toward the water taxi area in order to get connected back to the city. And here the rail again presenting it, I wouldn't say as big a barrier as the lack of connections back to the main city.